Hi everyone, my name is Nisi Webb, and I want to take just a moment to tell you about some of the community outreach events we have here at the Johnson Center. I know that many of you are listening in from afar and may not be available for local events or programs, and that's one of the main reasons why we provide this webinar series. Parents and professionals alike can register for any of our free webinars and can have access to some very informative topics and experienced presenters. Please mark your schedule for our next presentation, titled Learning Can Be Fun, an overview of naturalistic teaching strategies, on Tuesday, April 8th. If you're not on our email list, which enables you to get these announcements directly, I encourage you to visit our website and click on the Join Our Email List link. To get instant news and events from the Johnson Center, you may also follow us on Facebook and Twitter, as we often announce grant and scholarship opportunities, research opportunities, and last-minute events and presentations there. You can find these links on our website as well. I also encourage all who are listening to check out the blog on our website, as we offer information on current nutrition, medical, behavioral, education, and research topics. Be sure to follow our colleagues at the Autism Research Institute, as they have launched their own webinar initiative, and they share some great resources on their website and social media pages. Today's webinar is being presented by David Geslak. David has become widely recognized in the autism community for his affection to the community, dynamic presentations, and for the pioneering of structured visual exercise programs. He has trained professionals throughout the world on the exercise connection protocol, authored 3 books, hosts a TV show called Coach Dave on the Autism Channel, and provides jobs for individuals with autism, his champions. The autism and special needs community has enthusiastically embraced Dave's message and is especially encouraged by his results. Before we begin the presentation, please note that questions can be typed into your control panel, and time permitting, they will be addressed at the end. Also, for those of you that have requested copies of the presentation, we cannot send out the presenter's slides. However, we do post recordings of all of our free webinars on the Johnson Center YouTube channel. Please search for us on YouTube and subscribe to get full access to all of our recorded webinars. Now, please help in welcoming our presenter, David.
Hello, everyone. How are you today? I appreciate you spending your afternoon with me. This is my second presentation for the Johnson Center webinar series, and I am grateful that they had asked me to present again. But this one, as you all know, is about influencing language development with exercise. Here's a little bit about my history. I'm from the University of Iowa, health fitness specialist, strength and conditioning specialist. I spent some time as a strength and conditioning coach at Iowa football and privately trained individual in the NFL. However, around 2004 is when I had my first experience of a child with a child with autism, and I taught him how to skip. And now, 10 years later, this is what I'm doing, and this is truly where I know I was meant to be. After working privately with the children, I had worked as a paraprofessional for about a year, and then the school that I was working at, called Giant Steps, which is a school for children with autism here in Illinois, had asked me to start their fitness program, and I did, and have they received a grant within 8 months, and then now we have now helped multiple organizations receive grants throughout Illinois. So I think about $15,000 to $20,000 in grants. I want to make sure you guys can see my slides. I apologize for the Did you guys see this slide? I think so. Okay, my apologies. We're first talking about, in regards to exercise for our children, we want to do movement first and sport second. Okay, a lot of parents and a lot of professionals want to immediately ingrain their children in sport, which I think is great and is absolutely a form of exercise. But most of these children and these adults sometimes don't have the concepts of their hands, body parts, and even body awareness. So motor planning and movement is primary in the exercise connection protocol. You don't have to spend a lot of money, and I'm going to show you that today. And by using masking tape, foam rollers, and visual supports. Here are some visual supports that we're probably all familiar with, but I will show you some of the exercise connection visual supports. Think of the body as the machine. We can do multiple exercises without spending, again, all this money on equipment. Now, getting into our language, here is one of the first and one most important most important studies I have ever read specific to autism. It says the facilitator, parent or other, having a visible effect of acceptance, enjoyment, expressiveness, and warmth are significantly related to increases in the child's language, social competence, joint attention, and self-regulation. Absolutely, absolutely amazing study that was done at Case Western. So if you're a professional and you see that a paraprofessional, if you're a teacher of a classroom and you see a paraprofessional has been worn down, maybe just got bit, hit, changed a diaper, whatever the case may be, maybe giving them a 5-minute break can make all the difference in the world for them, but most importantly for the children they're working with. And again, let's pay attention to that. Significantly related to increases in the child's language. You have to be happy. And if you're not, and if you're fake with these children, not only do they know the difference and they know if you're real or genuine, but so does mom and dad. This is the first video I'm going to show. It's about a 2-minute video, and then we're going to go in and break down how we were able to get to this development phase with Rowan. At the time when I started with him, he was 3.5 years old. And he was your classic autism, limited verbal, bouncing back and forth between the couches. His parents did have a biomedical approach to helping him. We could no eye contact. We could hardly hold a conversation, if that. But this video is when he was about 4.5 years old. And in orange there, it says, this is a study, it says a relationship exists between motor skill development, language development, social interactions, and academic performance. And here we go. You may have to turn your volume up. Getting them all set up. Rowan, are we going to do all those exercises today? What number is that? Is that our magic number?
Yes.
What number?
25.
Open up. 9, 10. Up. 6. Good job. 4.
Nice job.
All right. So what you saw there was Rowan. We began in his basement. So for parents, I think, and for professionals, sometimes it's maybe the best place to start as in the home. I know sometimes we want to move our children out into the community, which I absolutely agree with. But for some of the kids in exercise, especially as they get older, you want to have them in a comfortable place where they can develop their confidence. And sometimes moving to a gym or a center that they're unfamiliar with will just make it more challenging for you as a parent or a professional. You saw that he was counting, and we're going to talk about that. You saw maybe him laying on a blanket, which was he didn't have a workout mat, and I just used a soft blanket to give him more of a sensory feedback. You saw a little bit of yoga, which we're going to tap into. There was a ladder there at the end that he was going through, and I'll explain that. Dumbbells we covered in a previous webinar, but very, very important for even younger children. But I would encourage that if you don't feel comfortable using dumbbells and things like that, do not. Most importantly, we want to keep them safe. Okay, keep your kids safe, but I've seen dramatic improvement in all of my children and adults with muscle tone, and even motor coordination by the use of dumbbells. So we're going to begin on talking about our children and the fundamentals of an exercise program. You need to have an understanding and education, which you guys are getting today. You need to have structure, supports, just visual supports, maybe sensory supports in place, anything that your child needs, that you know that they need, put that in place when you're implementing an exercise program. You have to have motivation and patience, okay, going back to that first slide, and then listen to parents and guardians. And I say this because I've walked out of IEPs, I've heard professionals say that, oh, mom or dad isn't doing what we're saying and blah, 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 blah. Well, I'm in no position, and some professionals are in no position to judge what is happening or what our mom and dad are doing. I've been in a lot of homes of these children and adults, and I can never put and would never choose or would never claim to put my feet in your shoes. You parents are the miracle workers. You guys have some of the best ideas to work with your children. So professionals, listen to mom and dad. And then most important, that listening and all of us working together, it's teamwork. That is how we're going to help to not only and maybe engage in an exercise program for our children, but just elicit more confidence, self-esteem, and get your child to those goals that you want him or her to have, or to achieve, I should say. Structure, okay? Structure can help to reduce maladaptive behaviors. It will provide the opportunity for change, and I'll tap into that. And it provides the child with expectations, a beginning, a middle, and an end. Think of The Biggest Loser if you've watched that. Some of the participants, they say, do 10 push-ups. Then they go on, they get to 10, do 10 more, do 5 more, do 20 more. We all understand why they do that. Very important in trying to get them to obviously burn more calories and lose weight. But imagine doing that with a child with autism. you would probably get smacked in the face or a dumbbell thrown at you, which I have. But it's the truth. They need expectations. And so what we see on TV and maybe what you read in a fitness magazine does not work sometimes with our children on the autism spectrum. Visual supports. We need it throughout their day. A lot of our children do. Here is the research to back it up. Reduce transition time, increase on-task behavior, and in completing self-help in the home. When you go into an exercise environment, and especially if your child is an adult and maybe they've never done exercise, I think it's even most important to use those visual supports with them. Even if as a parent you may think, oh, he did that when he was a kid, he doesn't need that anymore. He doesn't need those visuals. Yes, he does. I have what's called the visual exercise system, just so you guys know that that's always available. It's a color-coded system to provide to maintain focus for the child, to keep you as a parent or professional organized. And if you see in the bottom right, that's one of our champions, Derek, who builds the visual exercise system. So it keeps him and the other champions organized. All right, here's what I talked about, setting the structure. Here's a quick video. Now this took time for Rowan to eventually establish the structure. You'll see here that the visuals are actually all white until I started to change the color and the structure, but you're going to hear him reading some of the things, and I'm asking him questions, and it provides a great opportunity for you to make requests, okay? And it gives him or your children the ownership of the program. Now again, this took at least 6 to 12 months before he was able to eventually establish his own schedule. But here you go.
You're what? You're doing what? Busy doing what, Ron?
I'm busy doing my exercise.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Now, one of the things that we do is with Rowan is I would have him pick a magic number. And when you saw that in the initial video, again, to give him ownership, but I would set and establish that structure of the amount I wanted him to set or the goal I wanted him to achieve with certain exercises. And what you saw in that video, he got through all those exercises. We did one set of every exercise, okay? And again, gives you the opportunity to communicate, teach him language, work on different vocabulary, and build that into his routine, or build that into his into his routine. Now, what's significant about this, I wrote the number 2 right there on the right-hand side, but what I did do is then I had him write the number 2, and that's actually written with his non-dominant hand, his left hand. And I'm going to go into that in a little bit, but that is written with his non-dominant hand. When building the visuals and helping, remember, if we're talking about language and we're talking about exercise, you have to make things fun for these kids. And it goes back to that first slide. So one of the days that we were exercising, I put the visual inside his little his Batman character. And Batman would fly around, he would do the exercise. So you got to be fun. And I think that is also not only going to help with them engage in exercise, but will help to improve and develop their language. Okay, here is him setting his schedule, and this is with the other, with the visual exercise system as we added to it. Now, you're going to hear increased vocabulary, some of these things that he's saying, and he's directly reading from it. This is a very, very intelligent child, which when I first met him, again, he was bouncing off the walls, and I was I didn't know where I was going to begin with him. But now here you go, watch him read and go through this.
That's Rowan, that's a really big word.
What does that say?
Say the first two.
Butter. Part.
Very good. Body part.
Body parts.
That's a huge word, but try it again.
Spick.
Identification.
Yes.
Say it.
Spick.
No, identification.
Identification.
Amazing.
What does that say? Identification.
All right. What does this one say? Side. Leg. Race.
Say leg. What does this one say?
Where? So you tell me.
What is
Oh, stop.
what goes there? What goes there? What goes there? What goes there?
Hold on. What were we just doing?
There.
What were we just doing? You were saying this word. What does that say? You know that. You said it pretty good, buddy. Butterfly arm reach.
Butterfly arm reach.
All right, but let's do this exercise.
All right, so I guess the point of me showing you that too is now he was 4.5 at the time, and obviously his language was absolutely amazing from where his parents ever thought and what I thought. But I was challenging him beyond dog, cat, sit, stand, I'm happy, I'm sad. He was at that stage where his brain wanted to learn. So you heard him saying identification, sounding out. My wife is a speech language pathologist, and she loves when I bring these videos home. And if you're any of your speech language pathologists, I'm sure there's a multitude of things you're thinking about right now. But challenge them. So again, we're going back into supports. We want to set a fixed agenda or a schedule, have visual supports, social stories. Rowan and I review that. We go through that, and you still need that in exercise. You have those sensory supports. And I gave you 2 pictures of examples. I try to pick exercises or activities that we can do both inside and out. Because if it's -4 degrees like it is here today in Chicago, you'll understand that we don't get to go outside that much. Again, nonverbal communication, having those schedules, those timers, and that motivation, okay? Remember, your face tells a story. So if you're unhappy and it shows, that can go back to your child's development or that child you may be working one-on-one with as a paraprofessional, okay? All right, here is just him now. Now, as we've grown to, or he's grown to understand the body parts and worked on it, then he's able to go ahead and identify with body awareness.
Line to the picture. Very good. All right, which word is hand?
This one.
No, which word is hand?
Hand.
Very good. Now draw the, awesome. Which word is toes?
Toes.
Good. Now draw the line to toes. Very good, Roland. All right. Which word is waist?
waist.
Draw the line to your waist.
Where's the waist?
You gotta find it.
It's right over here.
Try again. Where's the waist?
Right there.
Yes. Alright, I think we got two. Where's nose?
Right there.
Alright. Oh, wait. Shoulder?
Shoulder.
Yeah, where's the shoulder? Good. Nice job, buddy.
Where's distance?
Absolutely amazing. Okay, our children and exercise. We're going to get into now, I'm going to show you guys and give you some examples of some exercises that we can do. I don't have videos for all of them, but these are definitely things that you can practice and you should be able to understand even through this webinar and us unfortunately not being together and trying these exercises as a group. Okay, the benefits of exercise. We all know it. Reduces risk of type 2 diabetes, lowers blood pressure, reduces the level of stress, obviously now influencing language development. But that's the benefits of exercise for everyone. Here's the results of exercise specific to autism, and you're going to see one slide or one study that I mentioned ADHD, and because a lot of our children are duly diagnosed. Potential to improve stress and anxiety. Exercise has been shown to have increases in attention span and on-task behavior. It's effective in controlling many types of inappropriate behaviors. It reduces aggressive behaviors exhibited by ADHD patients and increases brain complexity by creating new neural pathways. Basically means exercise is medicine. The more your children exercise, the more their brain is working. So vital that you make it a part of your child's routine or your students. Okay, letter jumping. Here's my first example of how you can do this, and you're gonna see it go from a speech to gross motor to fine motor, and then actually even back to speech. And here's a study at the bottom. It states physical movement interventions would have the greatest effect when utilized during academic or therapy sessions versus directly before. So essentially saying, group this all together, have your children move and learn, move and learn. And what I'm going to show you here as examples of how you can teach your children or adults to learn their letters by jumping. So if you see in the pictures, there's 5 dots. You can arrange those 5 dots specific to your children's height, meaning if your child is like Rowan, very tall, you're maybe, if your child is like Rowan, short, you may only put the letters, the dots, maybe 6 inches apart each way, okay? Because we want to establish that confidence, okay? And we're going to show you some examples of letters on this next slide, but you can do letters C, D, X, Z, N, M, I, W, I, L, O, and V, okay? So now this may make more sense. Here's examples at the bottom of the letters C, M, and X. Now, how would we begin? Well, you want to remember, you want to create those dots, and you can just use masking tape. If you're outside, use chalk. Okay, and I'm going to give you a nice little fun tip here on the next slide. But here's how we first begin. Have the child say or choose the letter. So on a whiteboard, what I do is I write the letter that I want them to say and eventually write. So you can say what I would, for example, I would say, Rowan, what letter is this? And the letter may be C. Then, number 2, I would have the child jump or walk the letter. However, make sure you model and do the exercise. Now, sticking with point 2, you may want to, with modeling the exercise, we call it letter jumping, but if the child doesn't jump, it's not a big deal. If they walk through, especially if they're nonverbal, and they walk through the pattern and get it, that's absolutely amazing. We know that now they're processing, they're understanding. So beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Again, now we've gone from 1, that verbal or that speech, to 2, now gross motor movement in some way, whether it's jumping or walking, and then 3, using the whiteboard, have them now write the letter. Now you can have them write it with their dominant hand, and then I would also have them write it with their non-dominant hand. It's not going to hurt them to write with opposite sides. It can only even help improve their dominant hand capabilities. Okay, so there's C, M, and X. There's 3 examples of letters you can do. Now, be creative. Now here's a letter M. To us, to them, some tape on the ground may not mean anything, right? So you can maybe, here's some of our kids like SpongeBob. So take like little copies of SpongeBob, stick them to the ground, I don't know, laminate them, do something. When I was in Dubai, Tom and Jerry were huge. So maybe you got Tom in the middle and Jerry's on the outside. I don't know. Be creative. Think of what your kids may engage them in some of this. And there's just one little idea of how you can add and make it more personal to your child or the children you're working with. One thing I do want you to know is that everything that we do or I do is based on a philosophy, and that's called the 5 components of physical fitness for children with autism spectrum disorders. This was the components that still to this day all of our children, neurotypical and with special needs, are learning in the gym class. By no means they're important. Body composition, flexibility, muscular strength, muscular endurance, and cardiovascular fitness. But what I found interesting is that these 2, balance and coordination, is not a primary component, but a skill-related component according to like the President's Challenge. Now, in our children with special needs, how often do we hear about coordination, motor coordination, and balance? Now, typically, like the picture in the bottom right, we think of balance of standing, the literal balance of maybe standing on one leg. While they can be very important for our children, I look at balance as also as, can the right hand do what the left hand can do? Can the right leg do what the left leg can do? Because if we know both sides of the body are able to do the same thing, we know the brain is working in harmony as it should be. So balance coordination should absolutely be a primary component, not only for our children with autism, but absolutely for all of our children. So these are the 5 components: body image, motor coordination, posture, muscular fitness, cardiovascular fitness, and the abdominal strength is a bonus component that we've added, which could actually fall into posture or muscular fitness, but I separated that because most of our children, all children, are weak in their abdominal or trunk area. And in the visual exercise system, we created a whole component and separate color for abdominal strength. All right, here is Rowan doing the airplane. And why this is significant is because while it's traditionally what you may think of is a yoga exercise, he's getting that balance or that posture. He is advanced because he's on what's called an AirX pad, and he's also developing muscular fitness. So absolutely amazing. You're going to hear him count, respond to WH questions, and follow directions.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
10.
11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
What was that?
20.
That was the, what was that?
The ear point.
Oh, very good.
Now, you see the larger visuals, and actually that is how we started, especially when he was in his very early stages of exercise and still fully entrenched in autism. So I would lay those big visuals out, and then we move to the smaller visual system. Okay, this is called agility ladder, and you saw that in the earlier video where Rowan was doing this on the ground, walking through it laterally. He was doing the one in the bottom left, 2 in lateral. And why I like the agility ladder is you can actually help to develop and build sentences and structure, and even help to improve the rate of speech in, just to help improve the rate of speech. I know a lot of individuals, maybe specifically with Asperger's, some can talk very, very fast. So this can help to slow them down. And there's all different types of movement patterns you can do with the feet, or jump, and in different planes of motion, meaning not only forward or backwards, but moving side to side. So while you're doing that, not only can you work on speech development, but you're challenging the muscles of the lower extremity, the ankles, knees, and hips. And by moving in all those different directions and patterns, you're challenging the brain. And remember, let's go back to that earlier slide of ingraining movement with our children. We know this is how most of our children learn. And it's unfortunate that most of our children spend their time sitting down at a desk, even like I am right now. I mean, we know that they need to move their bodies. So create sentences with the ladder. You can work on targeted vocabulary. Maybe it's objects they're trying to identify, colors, body parts, concepts, big or little, maybe quiet and loud. You can have them stomp their feet. And then and even animals. And we're going to get into animals in a second, but you can then even write down, make sentences with the ladder. So here's an example of 4 squares of a ladder. If your children are increasing their vocabulary, you can absolutely add a square or 2 or a word. So here's an example. Penguins have 2 feet. So as they're walking through it, maybe they say that sentence. And maybe you can think of a sentence right now that your children is working on. Here's another one. I see my feet as they jump through it. I hope that can give you some ideas. Now, they're actually moving forward, but if you remember this earlier one, which I'll go back to, hold on. If you remember this one here in the bottom left, the 2 in lateral, you can absolutely do and create sentences that way. Sorry about that. Trying to get too fancy. All right. Now, you heard me mention animals, and I think yoga is actually is one of the first things Rowan and I started with, but I think can be one of the most important ways to get your child to start exercising, especially if they're younger, because they're typically learning things like cat, table, dog, and all different animals. However, typically in yoga, you see there, number one is calm body. Typically in yoga, a yoga session, it will end with a calm body. Now, I think and I've seen great success in an individual and group-based setting to have children begin with a calm body, especially in a school, and then slowly work their way up to their feet. So this is just an example. You can start by laying on a calm body, then move on to the hands and knees in a cat position. Again, you can teach them many different types of lesson plans and activities and about their body as they do this. Then they would move to a table, maybe then a downward dog, and then on their feet. But I've, again, seen great success with starting with a calm body and getting your children, getting their sensory systems regulated, and especially in the school, just giving them a break, just giving them a little bit of a breather to gain body awareness and just to have a break, even if it is from not only their teacher, their paraprofessional, but sometimes the students and what their peers may be doing, whether it's screaming, scripting, who knows? Their brains and body need a break. Okay, here's Rowan doing the spike because his dog is named Spiked. Now, while this is yoga, he's getting body awareness, muscular fitness, and posture. Again, we're working on WH questions. He's learning new vocabulary, and he's following directions.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
What was that?
Who's that?
That's Coach Dave.
Where's Rowan?
He's lost.
No, that's Mommy.
Oh, it is?
Where's Coach Dave? Where's Rowan and Coach Dave?
They're gone. All right, pick the next one.
Where's Rowan?
Hold on, I'll go back. So what he was doing there, he would see two different images in the visual. So that's where he was saying, "Where's Coach Dave? Where's Rowan?" We would make this game of it. And one thing, as you can see here on the screen, the downward dog doesn't look perfect, okay, or what's demonstrated in the visual. And again, I think I said this earlier, it's fine. If they're not doing something that, again, doesn't look like it looks in the visual, or maybe it's not demonstrated or the way you demonstrated, don't stop them. Don't tell them no. Don't tell them it's wrong. Let him keep going. He's in a safe position. He's not going to hurt himself. And the reason why he's not is because his body's growing, and most of our children's bodies are growing. So their hamstrings aren't fully developed, and that's exactly why it wasn't working here or didn't look that way. Okay, in the bottom, you'll see a snake example, and child take the lead. So here's my example of the snake. That was another yoga pose. However, he was at one day he was going through his books, and he picked he was completely distracted, but he picked up a book that was about animals, and it had a snake in it, the page he was on. I let him keep looking at that book. I brought over the picture of the snake yoga pose, and then we went on his blanket there, and I was able to engage him back into exercise. Okay, so that's again why visuals are so important for your kids. And it just worked again with what he was learning at school or at home with mom and dad reading him different books. The posture log, the foam roller, you saw this in the original video. He was clapping his hands. Why this is so important is can help to calm the nervous system. It can improve posture, And even by little rowing on it, or even you or any of the kids, it helps develop core stability or abdominal strength. So maybe there's some language activities you could incorporate into this. But again, and why I like the posture log, or excuse me, the foam roller, is it's inexpensive. You can find them just about anywhere right now, and they can, not only can your child use it, but so can you, mom or dad, because I'm telling you, it relieves a lot of tension in the neck, where we all hold our stress and tension. So very important for your kids. Here's an example of one of the champions, Rachel, who will actually be speaking with me in Georgia next week, and we're speaking back in Illinois, so very proud of her. But right here, that's a white foam roller, which she made her own. And maybe this is a great activity for a teacher to do at a school. Get the foam rollers, have them make it their own. You can see up there, she wrote anime and manga forever, Drops of Jupiter is her favorite song. And then we would do exercises on it. Absolutely amazing. Very proud of Rachel and everything she's doing. Supermans, why I wanted to show you this is, again, I call them Supermans, which helps Rowan relate to exercise. We can, again, work on all those WH questions and teaching different things. But here, he is crossing midline of the body. This is what we're ultimately looking for in this picture, but it's important that you learn how to break it down. And the last thing I want to mention on that is, sometimes our children maybe can't cross midline standing up, like we think, or even some. I'm not saying that, don't take it this the wrong way if a physical therapist is on listening, but sometimes we think that if they can't do A, then we're not moving to B, and if we're for sure not moving to C. But most of our children, sometimes they can do C, but they can't do A or B. And that's the protocol that a lot of therapists, whether it's physical, OT, they follow. But imagine sitting in a room all day, every day, doing the same exercise or same activity, and you're not able to do it, and you keep repeating it. Not only is these children not going to get a lot of confidence, but they're just going to get bored. So my point is I've seen a lot of kids who can't stand up and cross midline in their body, but I've seen them be able to be on the ground and do this before they can stand up, which what we may think is easier. Excuse me, before they can stand up and cross midline. So here's how you may break it down. You may just do leg kicks on the top left by having and prompting them to hit your hand. They may then go moving to the right, may kick their hands straight out, or excuse me, their legs straight out. Then you can work on just reaching the arm. In the bottom right, he's actually holding a dumbbell and touching the opposite and then reaching. So adding some sensory integration, some muscular strength, but you would want to cross midline there with or without a dumbbell, and then ultimately work towards that Superman and piecing it all together. Now here's another example of speech and exercise. And on the left here, it says he was counting, but he was in this phase for, it had to be a couple months, where he would use N or different letters before before he would count. So it was none, new, knee, nor, nigh, nick, Nevin, Nate, nine, nen, and he would call me Noach, Nave. But here, I want you to hear this.
Kick, kick. Up, they go. That's it. All right.
Now it's this one. What are we doing?
All right, I'll show you. Hold on.
So again, talking, having fun, and you saw he was doing those leg kicks like we had demonstrated before. This is hurdle exercises, and I've showed you examples here, but this is another way to work on concepts with your children. Can you go walk over the hurdle, walk under the hurdle? And you don't need necessarily hurdles like you see there on the left with cones and a stick, but there may be some other ideas that you get from this where you can incorporate language into this activity. Now, it's important to remember that a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And this section is for you, families and professionals. Your role as a mom, dad, brother, or sister should be, what I experience sometimes is that we talk the talk, but do you walk the walk? Meaning we know that we want our children to exercise and be active, but are you doing it and modeling it and able to show them? That's why if you were able to come to one of my presentations, you're not sitting down like you are now and I'm just showing you slides. We're up and doing it. I want you to understand and be able to teach these exercises or an exercise to your child or the children you're working with. They need to see you model it. That'll give them confidence. That'll make it fun and more engaging. I used to say no video games, but I would say let's limit them. Maybe use them as a reward. I've talked to people who have said maybe using them as a reward is not teaching what we want, and it's tough, but this is the reality of today. So I'm not a proponent of video games. A study can come out about fine motor coordination and how it's really important, or how video games can be beneficial. And I guarantee you those video game companies can write and fund any study that they want. And these video game companies know how to hook our children in. It's probably I know it's $1 billion industry. So let's limit them. Nutrition plays a huge role. I save that for the experts, but it plays a role in our children's development, both cognitively, physically, and but that should always be a part of your children's routine and something that I want any parent or professional to understand, meaning don't use food as a reward. I saw a developmental therapist walk into my class, follow the child around as we were doing a group exercise class, and after the class, after he turned in his schedule, what did she hand him? A Snickers bar. I looked at her and rolled my eyes. I'm not a developmental therapist. I'm never going to claim to be one, but I got to believe you can think of something better than a Snickers bar to reward a child who's already overweight, who successfully completed a exercise class, let alone anything. Ridiculous. And just remember, your children are always watching, okay? That's why I want you to have exercises that you can teach. So if one day that child walks into the basement and follows you, and you're about to hop on a treadmill, you're about to do something, I want you to be able to do something with him or her. Have the child choose. This is a boy, he was 9 years old when I started with him. I would line the visuals up, he would pick, and we would do that. Okay, it gives them ownership of the program. You set the amount though, you to complete. That's what I did with Rowan with that magic number. Okay, give them realistic expectations. It may not be 10, it may not be 20, it may be 3 repetitions of something just to start. That's perfectly fine. Getting them moving is half the battle. We can always work on increasing that. It may not be 60 minutes your first session. It may only be 5. Okay? So don't think that you have to get this ingrained in 1 week or 1 day. It takes time. We know this from other therapies and other things we try with our population. Your voice counts. Okay? The health needs of our students have changed over the last 50 years. Okay? There is life beyond OT and PT. That will end, parents, if you're parents of younger children. You may not realize that now, but it will end. And sometimes it ends sooner than later, and thankfully. But they still need that sensory integration. They still need to move their bodies, and exercise can and should be that. Physical education is secondary to many, and and I'm not meaning just parents or professionals. It's to our schools. They say it's primary, but it's not. It's not being done, and that's how our kids learn. All learning is not done by books. So parents, use your voice to the PTOs, to your superintendents and principals, and get exercise a part of their IEP. You saw some amazing videos of Rowan, and I wish I could have had videos of him when he first started. But I could never do that because that would not make it real, that opportunity for me to build that relationship with him. But if you ever wanted to talk to his parents, I know I can let them talk to you. But see them for their capabilities and not their disabilities. I challenged Rowan. I challenged a lot of my champions, and they by far exceed my expectations. I do have books and DVDs available on my website, so you can definitely take a look at those. And there's 3 websites now, which I didn't write in here. I apologize. One is ecautism.com, which is currently being changed a little bit. We have coachdaveshow.com and myvisualexercise.com. Again, I apologize. If you go to my website, there's definitely a spot where you can sign up and become a part of the email list. And hold on. We are now going to take questions. And I'm going to receive an email here. I'm going to stop my screen. And I definitely want some questions. I'll try to answer as many as I can. For those of you leaving us, I again appreciate you spending the time with me today. And give me 1 sec, and I'm just going to go to my email, and then I'll answer some of your questions. All right. Nisi, the administrator, is putting everything together. So if you'll bear with me for a few minutes, and I'll get these answered. I am going to show you 2 of the other sites here. Here is the visual exercise system, so you guys can see that. It comes with small and large visuals, and there's myvisualexercise.com at the bottom. You can see that. And I'm checking. I'm going to the seems like there's a lot of questions answered in the question box. Unfortunately, I can't get them all. I apologize. Okay, here we go. I'm sorry. One question is, can these programs help a nonverbal child? I've worked with many children who are nonverbal, and yes, sometimes I think, depending on who that question was from, I'm by no means meaning to offend anyone, but sometimes I think that our nonverbal children, we don't give them the confidence maybe that I can't think of the word right now, but they are absolutely able to grasp these concepts. My son is 6 years old, has apraxia and feeding problems. Are there any mouth exercises to improve speech? Okay, yes, there probably are. That's actually a question for my wife, which I wish she was here. She's a speech pathologist, but I am not qualified to answer any mouth exercises. Do you have any specific suggestions for working with teen or young adults who have experienced an exercise before and are resistant to participation? Yes. Unfortunately, most of the teens and young adults have had a bad experience in gym. If that's, I'm going to guess, just assume that's where that came from. And still to this day, a lot of our kids are having that. So if they're resistant, I wish I had that magic pill or answer or cookie cutter approach. But I would find someone to work independently, one-on-one with him, maybe that he or she can connect with. Maybe they're not an exercise professional, and I don't think they have to be. We just want to get them moving, get them off the couch or away from the video game. So find someone that he can connect with or she can connect with, and maybe don't throw them right yet in a group class, because that can, again, be overwhelming and bring back maybe the negative experience of gym. Yes, you can get the handbooks, have both of the exercises in one and two, have some of these exercises that we went over today. Where can you get the visuals? The visuals shown in the presentation, definitely you can get at myvisualexercise.com or on the shop page of ecautism.com. How do we recommend we get your program integrated in my son's school? If you are listening still, definitely email me, but I can, I'm in schools in Illinois, and I can send you some information. We started a routine and you liked it, but lost interest. What can we do? Great question. It's hard for me to answer any specific questions on your children, but if, again, you as mom or dad, maybe find someone that can work with him. And again, they don't need to be an exercise professional initially. Find someone that can connect, because just think, a lot of our children don't want to listen to mom and dad, especially if they're neurotypical. It's the same thing with a child on the spectrum. Is it common for ASD kids to become overstimulated during exercises? Sure, it is. It can be. I've seen it more for our children to actually have their bodies become more calm than overstimulated. And I guess the recommendation would be is, if, let's say you use, which is what I think a lot of kids get overstimulated on, is a trampoline. Look at what they're doing or what exercise they may be doing that now you're seeing, hey, he becomes overstimulated after doing the trampoline, or hey, he became overstimulated after doing wall push-ups. So then write those things down. You should keep notes of what exercise they're doing, and if that is maybe what's overstimulating him, or you think, then just try a different exercise the next time. What is your take on raising your voice and not being monotone with the child? You probably heard during my presentation, my voice is up and down, and I've had a lot of parents say to me, oh, he doesn't respond well to sound or to the loud voices. I mean, if it's raising your voice out of excitement, yeah. But if it's raising your voice out of they're doing something wrong, I mean, I guess I've done a little bit of both just to get them back on task. But I think being monotone is just boring, and it brings your personality away from it, which is what they may absolutely connect with. You as the individual, not as, I want you to do exercise today. I am on an iPad. iPads are fun. You know, they get that enough. So be a person, be real, and be with them. Does your no, my book doesn't really talk specifically on communication issues. This is something new within the last couple of years. It doesn't talk about apraxia. How would you incorporate social skills learning into an exercise program for an 11-year-old? Well, that's a loaded question, and not in a bad way. It's just that's social skills. I would include a partner with it to start an exercise program, and meaning like let's look at that one example of the ladder. Okay, remember they start, they jump, maybe they're doing a sentence structure through it, but you can do turn taking at that ladder. You can do stopping and waiting, which is an absolutely appropriate social skill, especially if they're maybe going to a park and they're waiting on a ride, or if they're in a neurotypical gen ed PE class where they need to learn to wait. And then it provides that opportunity for them to build a relationship with their peer, whether they're, and actually this is the second part of the question, you may want to incorporate and find a child or a peer that is neurotypical, that can connect with your child, and that can be an absolutely perfect way to help improve and develop social skills. Because again, going to my answer, sometimes they don't want to listen to mom or dad all the time. So that is it. Again, on my website, you can find more information and sign up for my email list for any conferences in your area, workshops that I'm hosting. If you have further questions, please don't hesitate to email me. I don't respond right away at all of them, but I promise you I or someone will get back to you. We are here to help, and I want to make this transition into exercise easy for you as a parent or professional, and get your kids, get their bodies moving. So please let me know if you need anything. Thank you again, and I hope to be back presenting for the Johnson Center again. Thank you, everyone from the Johnson Center. Have a great day. Thanks.